The Houston Astrodome has stood the test of time. For better or worse, it still remains. When it opened, it offered a new type of entertainment experience in sports, being one of America's first dome stadiums. It has sat abandoned for well over a decade now, and in this video we will see why. This is the Houston Astrodome, still standing. The Houston Astrodome was built in the early 1960s, opening in 1965 as the home of the Houston Astros. This stadium would use a circular design, similar to other cookie-cutter stadiums of the day, which would make it the first domed football-baseball stadium. The Houston Oilers of the AFL would follow as another primary tenant of the dome in 1968. Over the next 40 years, this dome would host many a team, event, show, and concert. It had several historic firsts besides being America's first dual-use dome. It would have the first animated scoreboard and would be one of the first venues to have an artificial playing surface. This early version of an artificial playing surface ultimately ended up being named after the stadium in AstroTurf. After serving the city of Houston well for several decades, demands for replacements began. First in football with the Oilers, and later on in baseball with the Astros. After not receiving a new football stadium by the mid-90s, Oilers owner Bud Adams decided to move the team to Tennessee, beginning with the 1997 NFL season. The same demands were starting to come from the Astros, and unlike the Oilers, they were met, with Minute Maid Park being built and opening for the 2000 season. At this point in time, the stadium had no NFL or MLB tenant. Unlike most other stadiums at this point in its life, it was not considered for demolition, at least not immediately. Various events would continue to occur in the ensuing years, but with a new NFL team and stadium on the way in 2002, the venue's uses would soon be fewer. The stadium's hosting of large events would go out with a bang though, in 2002 with George Strait's For the Last Time concert there, which was part of the festivities of the annual Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. This final major event would hit an attendance record of numbers of just over 68,000. With the two main tenants gone and the new Reliance Stadium opening in 2002, the purposes for keeping and maintaining such a large venue were essentially non-existent. Yet the dome still stood. In 2005, it would serve as a shelter for Hurricane Katrina refugees, and in 2008, facing building violations, it was finally officially closed. An entire 8 years after being vacated by the Astros, and 6 years being vacated as a concert venue, this venue still stood. Yet, plans for demolition seemed moot. Various unpractical repurposing proposals were floated around in the following years, including becoming a hotel, convention center, and even a movie studio. The convention center plan even made it to the ballot box in 2013, but didn't fly with voters. Despite the fact that the venue has essentially been abandoned and still costs money to maintain its standing but not operating status, not only is there no plan for demolition, the dome was placed into state landmark status, preventing it from being demolished without special approval. On top of this, in 2018, $105 million was greenlit by the county to attempt a revitalization. This was then blocked in court by a judge over doubts over its feasibility. And thus today, the dome still stands in 2021. 25 years after the Oilers left, 21 after the Astros left, and 19 after the concerts left. It is unknown what will happen to it in the future. The simple solution is demolition. Why? Cities don't keep stadiums after they're vacated for a reason. Money and usability. Even the stadiums that have been kept for many years after being vacated, such as the Silverdome or RFK Stadium, eventually they were demolished or are in the plans to be demolished. You simply can't preserve such a large structure as a historical landmark, especially when it has no practical use, and this is shown with the failed proposals. Two much newer dome stadiums stand as replacements in Houston, and this one really should stand no more. It has served its purpose, yet it still stands. Thank you for watching.